welcome to Kermode Uncut. We're here at the Screenplay Festival in Shetland, the UK's most northerly film festival, where our special guest this year was Mark Gatiss, who's been up here. We've shown Adventure in Space and Time, which is a drama about the creation of Doctor Who, and The Tractate Millers, which is an adaptation of an M.R. James ghost story. Mark, how are you enjoying the festival? How's it been for you?
It's been wonderful. It's a fantastic community festival. I was thinking on the way up about, festivals often have a kind of overarching theme, and actually this one, if it has that, it's its own community. It's so drawn from the island and from the people, and a wonderfully Catholic choice of films, but without sort of pushing any kind of agenda. It's just really warm-hearted, and everyone's so friendly and approachable and interested. I think that's in the idea of film and storytelling, and they clearly respond hugely to guests coming.
You had a packed Q&A after the screening of Adventure in Space and Time, and loads of people asking questions. That must be something you're used to. But one of the things that has come up in discussion between you and me as well is we started talking about curated cinema, about the fact that both of us really benefited from having, introductions to movies on television, having people like Alex Cox or Mark Cousins talking to us about cinema. Tell me something about why you think that's important and whether you think it's something that we've lost at the moment.
Well, I'm besieged with people who ask me to sit in a leather chair and introduce horror films on TV, which I have to say I would love to do. but seriously, the principle of it is very important, I think. Something a bit of a pet bugbear of mine is what I call the illusion of choice. It's something that we've lived with for a long time now, which is the idea that we actually want to choose everything ourselves. That we 300 channels will therefore make better TV. And actually, when we all come home and sit down and put the TV on, what we want to think is that someone whose tastes we respect has actually spent some time choosing a schedule for us, and that's not a bad thing. That's there's nothing sort of dictatorial about that. It's about saying, well, I've seen this film, maybe you'll like it too. And what I've discovered so much in the past few years is it's a rather lovely thing to sort of, even if you casually mention a film, a very obscure film. When I did my first horror documentary, this is absolutely true. The sales of Freaks spiked to about 8, but they really did. There was a noticeable spike, and for people who'd never even heard of it, and something like that, I think is really it's very heartwarming and quite edifying, because you think, well, this is how we didn't know about these films until somebody recommended them. A bit like Meltdown or something.
Yeah,
South
absolutely.
Bank, you should go, well, someone is asked to curate an evening, and what they do is they interview their favourite obscure director, or they find someone who's long retired and give them a moment to talk about their work, but also just program movies or whatever that you love, and sort of communicate that passion.
You said it's something that you'd love to do. When you yourself were learning about cinema, who taught you? I mean, I remember being profoundly influenced by Moviedrome and Barry Norman. Who was the influence for you?
Well, I mean, I was saying earlier about Barry Norman, who, oddly enough, he was quite curmudgeonly, but I always liked that. And he didn't like horror movies.
At all.
At all. But we all knew the breadth of his knowledge, and therefore very much respected his opinion. Or you wouldn't necessarily not go and see a film because Barry Norman didn't like it, but I enjoyed listening to what he had to say about it. And then similarly with, for horror particularly, it was the Alan Frank book and that short-lived magazine World of Horror, which I was mad about, and House of Hammer and things like that. But also, the double bills on a Saturday or the Friday night horror slot. And somebody, Tyne Tees, or in the network, was choosing those films. And for every Dracula, Prince of Darkness, there was a real obscurity, some of which I don't know if they've ever been on TV again, but you appreciate the fact that someone's put the effort in. So in whatever format, whether it's on TV or in independent cinemas or even larger chains, I think that's something which I find very heartening, again, is that there seems to be something more of that kind of American idea of putting on quite odd films in big in big cinemas.
Yeah.
You know, it's starting to creep in now.
Well, that rep cinema thing
Yeah.
is, of course, I mean, I think for me that's the key. You know, I grew up going to the Phoenix and going to the Scala and watching films that were programmed by people who absolutely loved cinema, would make strange connections between films. So very last thing, you know, you're incredibly busy with Sherlock and Doctor Who and all the other things that you're involved in doing. If somebody said to you, we'd like you to curate seasons of movies, would it be something you'd be up for?
Yes. Straight away. Absolutely, yes.
Mark, thank you very much, and
Pleasure.
thanks for coming to
My
Shetland.
pleasure. Thanks for having me.